It's time for your Low Country Real Estate Market Update. It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Brian is one of the top 1% real estate agents in Charleston. Find him online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. Now, broadcasting from the WTMA studios, here's your host, Brian Beatty.
Good morning, Charleston. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Thank you for joining me this morning. I am your host, Brian Beatty. And if this is your first time tuning into this program, we talk all things real estate here on the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. So for the next hour, I like to take a lot of national, regional, local news and then apply that to the Low Country so that if you're considering buying or selling a home, or if you just enjoy learning about the real estate market, how to navigate it to your financial success, then that's what we're all about here. So really appreciate you tuning in this morning. I know it's a little early, but appreciate it nonetheless. Let me give you guys an idea of what I want to talk about for the next hour, because I've got a lot of really good stuff that I want to touch on. The first of which is something that really I haven't talked about a lot, but is something that's very important. And that's the relationship that you have with your real estate agent. I really want to get into the specifics of what to look for when hiring an agent, what's important about the level of communication you have with them, and then ultimately it boils down to your level of trust and confidence in that agent to get the job done for you. So that's something I want to talk about. I also want to talk about creating a marketing plan for selling luxury real estate. I haven't really touched on the luxury market here on this program in quite a while. And of course, we're right at the height of our market. We're right in the middle of our summer season for selling property. Everybody is busy. It's when the most listings go on the market. It's when the most people buy property. And I want to talk to you all about the luxury portion of our market, which Charleston has an abundance of. So I want to talk with you about selling luxury property. And then I also want to talk with you about representing buyers to purchase luxury property. There's a lot that I want to get into in that regard. And then a little bit later on, we're going to talk about just overall timing. If you're thinking about buying or selling a house, I want to give you guys some ideas, some things to think about that might help you in the decision-making process. And then lastly, I want to talk about short sales. If you've listened to this program before, then hopefully you know that I am very well versed in the distressed market here in Charleston. For several years, almost all of what I did was representing buyers and sellers to help purchase and sell short sales and foreclosures. And there's some things going on in our market right now that really kind of concern me. And I want to speak with you about some things that you really need to be aware of, both from an agent's standpoint, if you choose to hire an agent to help you through that process. And then almost more importantly, there's something called the Mortgage Debt Forgiveness Relief Act of 2007. And I know that's kind of a mouthful, but we'll get into what that means and how that applies to you if you're considering buying or selling a short sale. So before I get into all of that, if you guys have any questions, comments for me, if you're considering buying or selling a house, please give me a call. I am a real estate agent during the week. Been in the top 1% of agents in our market since 2009. Feel free to give me a call or text 843-345-1273 or visit my website, listingsincharleston.com. And on that site, you can search the MLS. You can take a look at everything I have for sale and have sold. You can read some testimonials from past clients. And if you're considering selling your house, click on the Sell Your Home tab and fill out the form to contact me. You can also learn more about my 59-day home sale guarantee, which very simply states that I will sell your home in 59 days or less, or I will sell it for half my commission. So the website to do that is listingsincharleston.com. And again, the phone number, 843-345-1273. In doing this show for about a year and a half now, a little over a year and a half, I am learning more and more as people contact me with their real estate needs that it's a program that they listen to fairly regularly, which I'm really appreciative of. I always want to take a little bit of time each show just to say thank you for allowing me to be on the air and to be a voice that provide you with consistent, reliable real estate data so that when it comes time to buy or sell a house, you're informed regardless of whether you choose to work with me or not. But just want to say thank you for those of you that tune in on a consistent basis and use this program as a way of staying in touch with our real estate market here locally. So let me talk with you first about something that I'm obviously very, very passionate about, and that's the relationship that you have with the real estate agent that you hire or the real estate agent that you've done business with in the past. And let's talk about sellers for a moment. You know, when a seller hires me to sell their house, we sit down, we talk about what's going on in the market. I give them a good idea of how the market is looking in their very specific price range and location. It's even neighborhood specific. Then we, of course, talk about price. We set a price that we think is reasonable, that will garner attention from interested buyers who will then come and view the property and hopefully make an offer. And then we talk about everything that I do to provide them with exposure through a marketing plan. What is tough to, in my opinion, establish from the get-go is a level of trust. And in my opinion, trust comes from a few different things. Number one, it comes from experience. It comes from having a long list of happy clients that you can put down in front of that potential homeowner or buyer and say, I am more than happy to have you contact these people so that you have peace of mind that when you hire me, I am a competent professional that can help you get this deal done. So first and foremost is testimonials and just experience in general. That's what helps create trust. And then you, of course, look at the list of properties sold. You talk to them about, here's how many properties I've sold in the past 12 months. Here's how many homes I've sold in your area. And that helps in creating trust. But I think trust is earned over time. And it's earned by fulfilling the promises that you make when you sit down with that potential home buyer or home seller from the very beginning and you lay it all out on the line and you say, this is what I'm going to do throughout this process to help you buy or sell a home. And then, of course, as you get through that process, you have to walk the walk. You can't just talk the talk. And for a lot of the sellers that I've sat down with recently, they've had their home on the market for several months, in some cases a few years, with a few different agents. And the agent, this is a very common occurrence in our market. They sit down with the homeowner, they tell them what they're going to do, and they don't do it. They'll do some of what they say they're going to do, but they really don't follow through on the promises that they make, which ultimately results in that seller either feeling like the agent just told them what they wanted to hear to get the business and get the listing, and it's not going to result in that level of trust that you really need to have with your real estate agent. You'll think about it. When you buy or sell a house, usually that is the most expensive asset that you have. And I'm not here to say that new agents or inexperienced agents can't help people buy and sell homes. All of us had to start in the business at some point. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when you sit down with somebody that has consistently for years done what they say they have done or fulfilled the promises that they've made, that's what creates the foundation for you to be able to earn the trust. But trust usually isn't just given wholeheartedly. It's something that you have to earn over time. So in that regard, I think it's also very important that when you sit down with your real estate agent, you really need to have an honest and forthcoming conversation with them about your goals. Because at the end of the day, as a real estate agent, I'm not here to push my agenda. I'm here to help you accomplish your goals. And there have been a few situations that I've run into recently where we sit down with the homeowner, we discuss their goals, we create a plan to accomplish that, and then at some point in the future, those goals change or the situation changes, but they don't tell me that. And then we are, at that point in time, moving toward a goal that really isn't in line with their current needs. So it requires communication, which is a two-way street. Communication is something that I harp on this radio program because it's something that's lacking in our industry and our public is starving for it. The amount of miscommunication between agents and their clients is astounding. It's why so many homes don't sell. Already this year we've had 4,000 homes that did not sell. They've come off the market because the listing agreement expired with that real estate agent. They didn't get the job done. Or the seller just said, you know what, enough's enough. I can't deal with this anymore. You're not giving me the direction I need, and I'm going to hire somebody else that can help me through this process. So communication, obviously very, very important. I would also say that there are going to be times where a difficult conversation is going to occur, whether it be something revolving around a price reduction, a difference in opinion on value of your home. Let's say a buyer walks through it and they just don't agree with the price that you've set. Inevitably, there is going to be some sort of hurdle that we as a team are going to have to jump over. And I think those are the times in which true professionals really are kind of separated from the rest of the pack. And that's why you want to hire a professional rather than an order taker. You know, if you're sitting down with somebody and everything you're saying they're agreeing with, they don't offer any opinion. I'm not saying that they have to disagree with you. I'm just saying that they have to come to the table with some level of experience and guidance, tools, systems, so on and so forth, so that you have that peace of mind to know that ultimately you're going to get this deal done. Nobody wants to be on the market for 6 months or 12 months and go through the process of having their home shown 40 times without an offer. Nobody enjoys that. And same thing with a buyer. If we go and we take a look at 60 houses and we haven't found what you're looking for yet, then that's not necessarily the fault of the buyer. In my opinion, it's more the fault of the agent because we're not listening to what you truly want, which all boils down again to communication. Ideally, a seller would tell me or a buyer would tell me, Brian, what is needed to get this job done? Or what do I need to do to make sure that we get the best deal on the home that we purchase possible? And then that's what allows the agent to then lay out the plan and say, okay, based on experience, based on market trends, this is what we need to do. And I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just here to offer guidance and ultimately accomplish your goal rather than, well, I have to maintain my average days on market of 34 days of property selling. So if we get past that, then, we've got to reduce the price because I need to maintain my own statistics. That's not the goal. You'll have great statistics as a real estate agent when you offer people honest, reliable information that they can make an informed decision on. So that's my kind of soapbox statement for the first part of this program. If anything I said struck a chord, if you would like to speak with me personally, feel free to go to my website, listingsincharleston.com, or give me a call, 843-345-1273. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Take a quick break. I'll be right back.
Have a real estate question? Ask Brian Beatty. Send him an email, lowcountryhomesales@gmail.com. That's lowcountryhomesales@gmail.com. WTMA. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
Good morning, Charleston, and welcome back. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. I'm your host, Brian Beatty. If you're just joining us, we were just talking about building trust with your real estate agent and how important that is to the transaction in general, because it's what allows us to really do our job and feel comfortable in advising you, a home buyer or home seller, about the process. And inevitably, whenever you hire a real estate agent, there are going to be good times and not necessarily bad times, but I'll say difficult times, and that not every transaction is an easy transaction. In fact, the ones in which you get the best deal are usually the ones that offer a fair amount of stress because there's obviously another party to the transaction that might feel as though they're getting the short end of the stick. So the relationship that you have with your real estate agent is of utmost importance, and we just talked about that at length for about 12 minutes. If you have any interest in tuning in and listening to this prior segment, feel free to go to my website. I've got a long list of previous episodes of this show on there. That website is listingsincharleston.com. Or if you're considering buying or selling a house, feel free to give me a call or text my cell phone, 843-345-1273. When I first started this program a little bit ago, I was talking about the luxury market here in Charleston, which, of course, in Charleston, we have a beautiful array of unique, high-end luxury properties. And so what I first wanted to do is just talk about the market in general, give you guys an idea of what the luxury market in Charleston looks like if you're considering buying or selling. And then I want to talk about what needs to happen if you're considering selling a luxury property in terms of hiring an agent and attracting that buyer. I want to really get into some kind of deep thought as to how to create this level of exposure and interest in luxury real estate, because as we all know, luxury buyers and luxury sellers, it's not all about the price. So I want to get into that. First, let me just talk about what's going on in our market over the past 3 years, and I'm going to define the luxury market in Charleston as $750,000 and above. So that's a lot of what my data revolves around. If you're in a neighborhood in Somerville and it's $500,000 and above, I would consider that to be a luxury neighborhood in Somerville. But we're going to get into that because there's actually some pretty interesting stuff going on in Dorchester County from a luxury real estate standpoint. Again, if you'd like to reach out to me, 843-345-1273 or my website, listingsincharleston.com. So let me give you an idea of what's going on in just the Tri-County area for luxury real estate. Over the past 3 years, we have seen a nice increase in sales. If we look from June 2011 to June 2012, we had about 380 properties sell that were $750,000 and above. Over the past 12 months, we've had 681 properties sell. So we've almost doubled the amount of luxury property sales in our Tri-County area over the past 3 years. Let me tell you what else has happened is the current inventory for luxury properties sits right now at an average of about 830 homes collectively for sale. That's across the Tri-County area. 3 years ago, it was 972. So think about this. 3 years ago, there was more for sale, and we were selling half as many homes as we are now. So if you apply the idea of months of inventory to the luxury market, and we measure the health of a market by looking at the months of inventory, which is the total number of homes for sale divided by the average number of sales on any given month. And right now, we're looking at about 15 months worth of inventory, which is still a buyer's market for luxury properties. Now, I mentioned that over the past 12 months, we've had close to 700 sales above $750,000. 600 of them have been in Charleston County. That's where the majority of our high-end real estate is. Of course, we've got everything from downtown luxury properties to resort properties to waterfront properties, so on and so forth. And if you look at Charleston County overall, those are the majority of the numbers that we're looking at here. So that's the main driver in our Tri-County area for luxury data. But let's say that you're in Dorchester County and you have a home that's $750,000 or more. You know how many homes have sold above $750,000 in the past 3 years? 4. 4 homes have sold in the past 36 months above $750,000 in Dorchester County. There are currently 12 for sale. Over the past 12 months, we've only had 1 closing above $750,000 in Dorchester County. So if you own a luxury property in Dorchester County, somewhere in Somerville, let's say, you really need to do everything you can to identify value and help that buyer understand why your home should be the home that they purchase. And so that's what I want to get into is kind of the emotional side of the purchase and the emotional side of identifying value with a potential buyer. And there was something that was written by Lawrence Nicholson. He's a director of a very high-end jewelry company based out of New York. And this is what he had to say about preparing to sell. He says, "A day of selling is not much different from a theater play. In both cases, rehearsing and preparation are crucial, lines to learn, a stage to set up, an atmosphere to create, a director's comments to take into consideration, with a unique goal, an audience to enthrall. All things considered, a day of selling is much more difficult than a part in a play. In a boutique, the entire cast is doomed to excellence because there will be only one chance. On top of this, each and every sales ambassador must play both the leading part and the supporting roles to assist other colleagues. Last but not least, the sales team must improvise a new role for each and every new customer while never forgetting that the show must go on whatever happens." I just thought that was a very interesting take on preparing your home to sell if you're in a luxury market. And let me say that as a real estate agent, those that succeed are those that are able to build trust from the very first contact with their potential clientele, which is what we just talked about for over 10 minutes in our previous section, is the ability to astonish customers every time through fantastic customer service. And really, there is no greater way to make a potential buyer or seller feel comfortable than by creating an environment where you understand not just what they are looking for, but you have the ability to connect with them emotionally, to understand that, of course, it's not just about the price. It's not just about identifying a house that fits their needs. It goes much further than just the mere functionality of a house. When a real estate agent has the ability to move into the realm of dreams and emotions, getting past the hurdle of price per square foot and all of those things that real estate agents tend to harp on as being value indicators, when we have the ability to move past that and create an emotional response or help that person understand that this is the best home for them, that's when we really have the ability to succeed as real estate agents and accomplish those goals. And so think about it this way. When someone goes in to buy a luxury car, the idea isn't for them to get to point A to point B. It's to make a statement. It's to make them feel as though that particular car or that luxury watch, which does more than just tell time, identifies with their interest in that specific design and style, and it has an uplifting impact on the way that they choose to live their life or what they say is their statement is about their personality. And when we have the ability to understand as real estate agents how to connect with this class of people, then that's really when we have the ability to sell real estate and go past just, here's the price per square foot compared to the house 3 doors down. So what I want to get into next is identifying a marketing plan if you're considering selling your luxury property that really helps you connect with those buyers by answering the questions of what do they want, where do you find them, what is going to make them act, so on and so forth. So stick around. We're going to take a quick break. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Feel free to reach out to me on my cell, 843-345-1273, or go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. I'll take a quick break. I'll be right back.
Visit Brian Beatty's website at listingsincharleston.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues next on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA. WTMA. Now, the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues on Charleston's Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA. I'm your host, Brian Beatty. Thanks again for tuning in this morning. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this program where we talk all things real estate here in the Low Country. If you'd like to reach out to me at any point during this program, or if you have any questions or comments, if you're considering buying or selling a home, the website to go to is listingsincharleston.com, www.listingsincharleston.com. That's my personal website. And on that site, you can search the MLS, take a look at everything I have for sale and have sold, take a look at some testimonials from past clients. And if you're considering selling your home, which is what we're going to talk about right now, click on the Sell Your Home tab, and you can learn more about my 59-day home sale guarantee at 4.5% commission. Or you can just give me a call, 843-345-1273. So when I left, we were talking about luxury real estate and the idea of selling luxury real estate. And I wanted to go back to a point that I don't feel like I did a very good job of impressing upon you, and that is this. When people buy a sports car to get from point A to point B, or a luxury watch, or a beautiful hand-stitched travel bag, they are not doing it based out of pure necessity. If they simply wanted to get from point A to point B, they'd drive any car or take public transportation. If they wanted to know what time it was, they'd buy a cheap watch, and if they just wanted to carry things around, they could just as easily use a plastic bag. But what we need to understand is that the purchase and the sale of a luxury property goes so much further than just the necessity associated with having a roof over our heads. And I think sometimes agents fall short on the experience that they create when showing those properties. And so I want to, this would probably go against the majority of what real estate agents would tell you, and that is that price is not always the most important thing when selling a luxury property. I mean, let's just pretend and forget for a moment that price is of concern and ask the question, do I always go to the cheapest place to eat? Do I buy the cheapest clothes? Do I go to the places that offer the cheapest services? Of course not. Some people do, and that's their choice. But because we are buying or selling a luxury property, it is, of course, much more complex than just what the price says. You have to go to a spot in your mind where the home and the features within it are going to identify with a particular buyer. And so that's what I want to talk about now is how do we find those buyers? What do we need to do above what most real estate agents do to find those buyers when marketing these luxury properties? And what's important about the house? So number one, finding these buyers. First and foremost, I would say that these buyers are going to use the internet just like any other buyer when looking for properties to purchase. They might use some different websites, some more luxury-based websites, but most of the time, they're going to use the same technology that other buyers are using. They're just going to search, of course, in higher price points. So there are plenty of luxury properties on Zillow and Trulia and Realtor.com and Homes.com and so on and so forth. And if you're hiring an agent, that needs to be a very basic item that they are featuring in their marketing plan. And not just subscriptions to these websites. They need to be paying the full level membership fee for those sites, because the most important thing here is that I could market a luxury property to everybody in the world. But if I don't have the ability to connect personally with that interested buyer, in other words, if I'm not paying my subscription fees to these websites, that buyer's information isn't going to come to me. It's going to go to a different real estate agent that is paying for zip code ownership on those websites. So understand that I could put your home on Zillow, but if I don't pay my membership fee, I don't get those leads. Another random agent gets those leads. That's got to be a basic. And I think that goes far beyond luxury properties. That's got to be a basic in any home that sells in this market. You're hiring the agent to be able to speak intelligently to that buyer about your home and about that market, and to understand what it is that truly motivates them to buy so that you can cater to that, create that emotional connection, which creates trust, and then use that to your advantage to sell them on the benefit of that home. And of course, if that home doesn't work for them, then you try and find them something else. But that's the job of the real estate agent. Now, I will say that luxury properties, there is no excuse for not using professional photography and a professional virtual tour. I think those are also required. Any luxury property of mine that you see on my website will have professional photos. People are so discerning online that if you choose to skip that route and save yourself a few $100s and not pay for professional photography, I think in many cases that could be the difference between your home selling and that buyer purchasing something else. Because at the end of the day, we are creating this experience. Okay? Now, of course, there are several different ways that we can find buyers. I'm not going to go through my entire marketing plan for finding luxury buyers. There are very specific things that I do that are quite costly and quite time intensive that I'm just, if you have a luxury property you're interested in selling, contact me. I'm happy to tell you what I do. But I also know that there's a lot of real estate agents that listen to this program, and I don't want to give my competitors an idea of what I do to sell luxury properties, because some of the things I do are very unique. But in terms of what does this buyer want, I think it first starts with creating a list of what is it about your home that's unique. We have to identify the atmosphere in which that buyer is going to go into that house and linger. You're going to want them to stay. And so you do that by, creating the feeling of comfort through lighting and music and colors and smells, and offering them a drink if they want a drink, and just being hospitable. But you're creating this atmosphere that speaks luxury throughout. And too often I've shown luxury properties where a real estate agent shows up and they're the listing agent. I'm representing a buyer, and the agent is there in a polo shirt and shorts and their Sperry's, and we walk through, we don't really feel welcomed. We feel like it's kind of an obligation that the listing agent is there. Some are helpful, some aren't. They just say, okay, well, walk yourselves through the property and let me know if there's any questions I can answer. Some people, I appreciate that approach. At times, I appreciate that approach if I really understand that specific home or if I've been in there before. But if I'm going to a luxury property and it's 7,000 square feet and it's my first time walking through it with my client, it sure is nice to have that listing agent walk through it with us and identify some of the things that really set that home apart, that create that unique list of features that those buyers are after. So if I'm a listing agent and I'm not providing myself with that opportunity, it really is to the detriment of the client because, as I mentioned, it's not just the price that is going to motivate them. It's the emotional side of the purchase. It's the uniqueness associated with that home that's really going to get them to act. Now, one of the great things about Charleston is that I've had the pleasure of selling property to people internationally. Just last year, I sold property to a guy from Poland, South Africa. I've worked with several people from Australia. I get a lot of people from Canada all the time, and a few other parts of just the international market for finding buyers. And that's something that I think a lot of agents miss out on, is the idea that we're not just marketing to people that are moving from Daniel Island to downtown Charleston or Mount Pleasant to a home on the water. It goes so much further beyond that, that if your agent doesn't have an international marketing plan to find these high-end buyers, you're missing a large segment of the market. Now, the last thing I'll say is that the relationship that real estate agent has with the realtor community is also incredibly important. Because let's be honest, these luxury transactions are not easy, quick transactions. There are a lot of details that have to be attended to, and we're talking about a lot of money. So every T has to be crossed, every I has to be dotted. And if as a real estate agent you have a poor reputation in our community, then that really might do an injustice to the buyer or the seller, because maybe that agent is going to be dealing with another agent that had a bad experience with that agent, and they clam up. They don't share some of the information that might assist in making it a more smooth transaction. And of course, there are 5,000 of them and one of me. So if I have a poor reputation in town, it's not going to be well received if I call a bunch of agents and I'd say, hey, I have a beautiful property on the water that I'm selling. Just curious to know if you're working with any buyers. If they had a poor transaction with me, they're probably going to be more likely to show other properties first rather than showing mine, because they don't want to have to deal with the stress of working with a agent that is focused on something other than just the transaction. There are plenty of real estate agents in our market and in any market that are so tough to deal with and just so emotionally draining on the process that it's almost like, gosh, if I were to show two identical properties, I would much prefer to work with this agent than this agent, because all they're going to do is they're going to take that stress and they're going to project it onto the clients. So I think that's also very important. And that's something that is very difficult from a buyer or seller standpoint to identify. So anyways, getting off that topic, I'm going to take a break. And when I come back, I want to talk with you about short sales. There's something very concerning to me that I'm experiencing in this market that I need to talk with y'all about. And then lastly, we're just going to talk a little bit about the overall timing in our market and whether or not it makes sense right now for you to buy and sell or wait. So coming up, that's what we have next on the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Feel free to reach out to me, 843-345-1273, or visit my website, www.listingsincharleston.com. Thanks again. I'll be right back.
Hear the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show every Saturday morning at 8 on 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. WTMA. Expert news and views on the Lowcountry real estate scene. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, and thanks for sticking around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. I really appreciate you guys tuning in this morning. It's always a pleasure to come on and talk about all things real estate here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. I've been doing this for about a year and a half, and as I continue to do this, it's really refreshing to me to hear from people that are considering buying and selling, and they say that they've heard me for quite a few months on the regular over the weekend. So I just appreciate the opportunity to share this information with you I am hopeful that in listening to this program, you can tell that I'm very passionate about what I do. I love this industry. I think there's a lot of room for improvement in this industry, but it's something that, when somebody hires me to buy or sell a house and we accomplish their goal, there really is no better feeling than laying out a plan, working the plan, accomplishing it, and then having that buyer or seller accomplish their goal. It's great. And I think that the difference between a stressful transaction and a transaction that goes smoothly has a lot to do with the experience of an agent and the way in which they allow you to make information-based decisions. Again, based on experience, market trends, all the things that we talk about on this program. So if you have any interest in buying or selling a home, again, I am an agent Monday to Sunday. Been in the top 1% of agents since 2009. Feel free to give me a call, 843-345-1273, or go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. So when I left, we were talking about luxury real estate. We've been talking about that for the majority of this program. It's something I haven't really covered in depth. And we've talked about everything from what makes buyers and sellers act, what kind of steps need to be taken from the agent's standpoint. How do we identify value? How do we create an atmosphere that allows that luxury buyer or seller to feel comfortable, so on and so forth. So if you'd like to hear more about that, if you're just tuning in, again, go to my website. I will have this radio show on by no later than Monday of next week. But before I left, I told you that there was something very concerning to me that's happening in our market right now, and I really need for you guys to hear this because it's important, and there's just a lot of misinformation out there about it. Frankly, there's a lack of information out there about it, which is equally as concerning. And that revolves around short sales. And if you've listened to this program in the past, that you know that I have a long list of sold properties in terms of distress sales, foreclosures, short sales, the like, and the level of experience that I have in that type of market. And there's something happening right now in the short sale market that is, again, concerning to me. So let me first explain what a short sale is, because I still get that question every once in a while, and I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. Very simply, a short sale is when you sell a property for less than the amount owed to a lien holder. A lien holder most commonly is a lender that provided that owner with a mortgage. So very simply, you are selling it for less than the amount of the mortgage, and there has to be some sort of decrease in value or financially distressed situation. That's what allows a short sale to occur. And I sat down with a homeowner who had their property on the market for about 60 days, and we've got their property on the market now. And she said when she sat down with her agent and she was very forthcoming about her situation, she had mentioned that she has a very large amount of tax liens on the property, both federal and state. I'm not going to say the address, and I'm, of course, not going to say the seller's information, but it's a short sale. And so she told the agent this information, and the agent just had his head down. He was writing notes. She said, I have tax liens in the amount of blank. And he just goes, writes it down, keeps going, doesn't bat an eyelash, doesn't offer any guidance, doesn't dig deeper into what she needs to do, what she needs to be prepared for, and how that changes the situation. So the property went on the market. No steps were taken to contact an attorney. No steps were taken to provide her with the necessary information so that she understands what she's on the hook for and how this process is going to work. And then ultimately, the agent says, you know what, I am not comfortable with these types of situations. I've never done this before, and I'm going to come get the sign in the lockbox. We're going to take the property off the market. And the issue with that, of course, is that the agent knew that he didn't have short sale experience, but he put it on the market anyways, wasted 60 days of the seller's time in a hot market. This just happened. And now this seller has to start over. She's been through the process of having her property shown, cleaning on a daily basis, so on and so forth. Frankly, it's just unacceptable. So what I need for you guys to understand is that if you are facing a short sale, the number one thing you need to know right now is something called the Mortgage Debt Relief Act of 2007. And what that says is that if you were to sell your property for less than the amount owed on your mortgage, let's just use some, raw numbers here. let's say that you have a $200,000 mortgage and your property sells for $150,000 and they are going to forgive $50,000 worth of debt. Before 2007 and before this Relief Act was put into place, that $50,000 would have been construed as taxable income, which not a lot of people were prepared for. They weren't given the proper advice from the get-go. And then all of a sudden they're left with this gigantic taxable income bill that they don't have the ability to pay because they're in financial distress. The issue is that although we've had this act in place from 2007 until December 31st of 2013, that act has expired. So if you're considering doing a short sale right now, you need to understand and have a very straightforward conversation with an attorney and an accountant to understand what your exposure from a tax standpoint is. And I can't stress that enough. And I don't want to scare you guys, but if that's not something that you've been advised on, if that's something that hasn't been brought to your attention, that should be pretty alarming. Now, I will say that the light at the end of the tunnel is that Senate has signed something that has then moved over to Congress, which is where it's sitting right now, for them to retroactively continue the Mortgage Debt Relief Act. But as of right now, if you do a short sale, you're on the hook for that difference as far as it being taxable income. So as more information on that comes to light, and as we hopefully get the good news that they're going to extend that Relief Act, I will let you know. I'll let you know as soon as it happens. But for right now, anybody considering doing a short sale or anybody that's still underwater really needs to know that. And a lot of agents don't know that, and that's concerning to me. So that's the number one thing I want you guys to take away from this, okay? Now, if you're a buyer, you're probably asking yourself, where are all the short sales? Let me give you guys an idea of the reduction we've seen in just available distressed inventory to purchase. In 2012, from January 1st until the middle of June, which is where we are right now, 459 short sales sold. In 2013, 386 short sales sold. This year, the first 6 months or so, we've had 226 short sales close. That is half of where it was 2 years ago. And the reason for that is that prices are going up. People are now able to sell their home. They're able to at least break even, pay some commissions, pay some closing costs, or they've corrected their financially distressed situation, and maybe they're coming to the table with some money and they're able to just write a check for whatever that number is to just pay off the remaining balance for their mortgage and get out of the house. But that's what happens when we switch over to a seller's market and we see increase in pricing, is that number of distressed inventory reduces. And of course, we still get calls from buyers that say, well, I'd love to get into a short sale or a foreclosure and try and get a great deal. But what you guys need to understand is that because there are so few of them right now, the majority of them are priced just like any other property. That goes for foreclosures. It goes for short sales. The only time that I've seen consistently where those types of properties are at really good deals is when they need a bunch of work. If they're in move-in condition and they're, ready to go, they're probably going to sell for very close to fair market value. So you need to ask yourself whether you're interested in waiting for that process to occur. And there's a lot that goes into that. I don't have time to discuss the entire short sale process. But what I am going to do is I'm going to put something on my website that gives you an idea, whether you're a buyer or a seller, of the time frame associated with these short sales and all the things that happen behind the scenes between the agent and the mortgage company in terms of getting through all these processes, of which there are dozens. So if you're considering buying or selling a short sale, luxury property, anything else we talked about today, feel free to give me a call, 843-345-1273, or visit my website, listingsincharleston.com. Thank you very much. Have a safe weekend, and catch me next weekend for another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Join us for another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show next Saturday morning from 8 till 9. Contact Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. 843-345-1273.